Every message you didn't send was more powerful than every one you did. Reconciliation with an avoidant ex doesn't begin when they reach out. It begins when contact with you stops predicting the same cycle. You feel them pulling away, panic takes over, you pursue harder, and they retreat further. Most people spend the breakup trying to prove their value again, but your value wasn't invisible to them. They experienced your warmth, loyalty, and the rare feeling of being understood. Those qualities became buried beneath a dynamic that turned love into pressure for one of you and uncertainty into panic for the other. These 5 steps are about changing that emotional reality. When contact begins again, 4 signs reveal whether they're truly moving towards you or only keeping the door open. You don't need to stop caring. You need to stop delivering your love through fear. Step 1. Stop reinforcing the breakup. Around the end of the relationship, closeness has become associated with conflict, responsibility, and emotional intensity. Distance brings relief. That relief can make the avoidant appear suddenly certain, cold, and disconnected from everything the relationship meant. Focusing on what went wrong protects the decision they've made. On your side, every instinct tells you to act. Explain yourself more clearly, apologize one more time, remind them of the good, but every attempt to prove that closeness is safe can become more evidence that closeness means pressure. If every appearance from you predicts another plea, post-mortem, or demand for certainty, they never experience you outside the emotional pattern they left. You remain trapped in the role their defenses already know how to reject. So the first move is simple, although it won't feel easy. If they ask for distance, give it fully. Handle unavoidable logistics calmly and briefly. Write the long message, but don't send it. Don't manufacture a crisis. Recruit mutual friends, or bargain away your dignity for one more conversation. The panic still has to go somewhere. Take it to a friend, a therapist, a journal, or a long walk. Build enough structure around your day that an emotional wave doesn't automatically become an action. Eat, sleep, leave the house. Put your phone away when the urge peaks. This isn't a trick to make them miss you. It's nervous system work. You're allowing the emotional temperature to fall for both of you. More importantly, you're proving something to yourself. I can survive this moment without chasing someone through a closed door. When the pressure stops, their defensive certainty stops receiving fresh evidence. You aren't starting from zero. They already know what it feels like to be loved by you. Step 1 stops you from burying that memory beneath another desperate attempt to recover it. But silence only stops the old relationship from getting worse. It doesn't yet create a new experience of you. Before we get into the step where everything starts to turn, tell me where you are right now. Are you fighting the urge to send one more message? Rebuilding yourself in the silence? Or have they already started reaching out, leaving you unsure what to do? Leave your step in the comments. Someone reading it tonight is standing in the same place, and your comment tells them they're not alone. And subscribe for relationship psychology that gives you hope without selling you fantasy, because step 2 is where the version of you they expect begins to disappear. Step 2, become able to tolerate the answer. This isn't generic advice to focus on yourself. The goal isn't to become less attached, less emotional, or less capable of love. The goal is to become less governed by attachment alarm. Can you miss them without converting that feeling into an emergency? Can you feel uncertainty without demanding that they remove it? You're recovering the person who existed before the relationship became a constant emotional monitoring system. Your humor, friendships, interests, work, and sense of direction. Their need for distance was never an objective measurement of your worth. The breakup distorted memory on both sides. They focused on the pressure because it justified leaving. You focused on the rejection because it confirmed an older fear that you were too much, not enough, or impossible to stay for. Write down the qualities they genuinely valued in you. Then separate those qualities from the fear that became tangled around them. You cared deeply. That wasn't the problem. I cared deeply, and I had to pursue them, are different sentences. I needed reassurance, and they were responsible for regulating every fear inside me, are different sentences. Your emotional depth doesn't need to disappear. It needs a steadier delivery system. Then begin making decisions that rebuild agency. Book the thing, fix the thing, finish the thing. Make one promise to yourself and keep it. Competence rebuilds self-trust faster than repeating affirmations while your life remains suspended. The shift is this: they didn't leave because you lacked value. They left inside a dynamic neither of you knew how to regulate. Reconciliation isn't the final examination that proves whether your growth counted. Their decision is information. It isn't your identity. Right now, they predict that contact will become pressure and distance will become panic. Every action from the frightened version of you confirms that prediction. When your emotional life stops orbiting their next decision, that prediction begins to go out of date. Once their answer no longer determines whether you can function, contact stops being a rescue mission. Now it can become information. Step 3. Let contact reveal the truth. This is the step most people fixate on. The message. Ignore rigid rules about 30 days, manufactured jealousy, or strategic indifference. The correct approach depends on the ending, whether they requested no contact, ignored previous messages, or left a necessary line open through children, belongings, or finances. If they asked for no contact, that boundary stands. Respecting it is part of proving that the pressure has ended. Where the line remained open and the emotional temperature has genuinely fallen, one light and sincere message can be enough. Something small, something true. No essay hidden inside a greeting. But first ask yourself, can I tolerate the answer, the delay, or no answer at all? If silence will flatten you for the next week, you aren't ready. That isn't punishment. It means the message still carries too much emotional weight. When contact comes from their side, respond with warmth, calm, and proportion. If they say, "Saw something that reminded me of you," don't turn the message into a referendum on the relationship. A simple, "Good to hear from you. How have you been?" is enough. You don't become more attractive by pretending not to care. You become more attractive when caring no longer costs you your center. Then match the scale of what's actually happening. One message earns one easy reply. One coffee is one coffee, not a summit on the relationship's future. Let repetition reveal intention. Look for 4 things: initiation, expansion, tolerance, and reciprocity. First, initiation. Do they contact you more than once without being pulled? One isolated message can mean anything. Repeated voluntary contact carries more weight. Second, expansion. Does the conversation gradually move beyond jokes, memories, and surface updates? Do they ask about your life, share more of theirs, or create reasons for the contact to continue? Third, tolerance. Can they remain emotionally present when mild vulnerability appears? They don't need to handle everything perfectly, but do they stay when the conversation becomes slightly more real, or vanish the moment warmth carries emotional consequence? Fourth, reciprocity. Do they make plans, follow through, and contribute to the connection? Are you both creating the contact, or are you still performing all the emotional labor while they receive it? A person can move slowly while still moving towards you. Repeated ambiguity without increasing investment isn't slow reconciliation. It's indefinite access. Let talking to you feel good again, but don't perform a perfectly effortless version of yourself. The goal is warmth without pursuit, openness without flooding, and hope without gripping. Still you, just steadier. Easy contact proves that warmth still exists. It doesn't prove that warmth can survive honesty. That's the next test. Step 4. Discover whether warmth survives the truth. Warmth can return during one good conversation. Emotional safety is revealed by what happens when one of you feels hurt, disappointed, or afraid. Once contact feels good again, the past eventually has to be discussed. Not as an interrogation, not as an attempt to extract a confession, as a repair. The goal isn't to avoid serious conversations. It's to make serious conversations survivable. Own your part without destroying your self-worth. When I felt you pulling away, I became frightened and pushed for answers before either of us was calm. I understand how my attempts to repair things started to feel like pressure. That's accountability. It was all my fault. I'll never need reassurance again. I'll accept anything as long as you return. Isn't accountability. That's self-erasure with an apology stapled to it. Then invite them to examine their part. If that feeling returns, what would you do differently instead of disappearing? Let them answer. Don't cross-examine every phrase or punish an imperfect explanation. You're trying to build a shared map of the cycle, so both people recognize the road before it carries them back to the same destination. This is where much reconciliation advice fails. It trains the anxious partner to become endlessly patient, while the avoidant partner's behavior remains untouched. That's the same imbalance at a lower volume. Real reconciliation asks something from both people. You practice regulation and less catastrophic interpretations of temporary distance. They practice openness, follow-through, and asking for space before disappearing. They say, "I need tonight to myself, but I'll call you tomorrow," and then return. But the conversation itself isn't the evidence. The evidence is what happens afterwards. Can they hear the effect of their actions without treating your pain as an accusation? Does the apology produce different conduct when the same pressure appears again? Knowing the language of attachment proves very little. Behavior reveals whether insight has become capacity. And even a beautiful repair conversation is still only a conversation. The final step is where the new relationship has to survive ordinary life. Step 5. Build the successor relationship. You aren't restoring the old relationship. The old relationship ended because its structure couldn't hold both people safely. You're building its successor deliberately and out loud. That means creating clarity around 3 things. How do you request space, and when do you return? How do you give reassurance without making it endless? How do you pause a difficult conversation and reliably resume it? These questions can't remain vague. Ambiguity helped destroy the old relationship. Clarity becomes part of the romance now. Someone says, "I need an evening to myself. I'll message tomorrow morning." They take the evening and return the next morning. You feel the old jolt of fear, but recognize it as activation rather than prophecy. You don't send 6 messages to prevent an abandonment that hasn't happened. You raise a disappointment without turning it into a trial. They stay without shutting down. A misunderstanding gets repaired on Tuesday instead of festering until March. Each moment disproves an old prediction. You learn that distance can happen without abandonment. They learn that closeness can happen without being consumed. Security is built through repeated corrective experiences. Hundreds of pieces of new evidence quietly outvoting the old file. Your self-concept has one final job here. Don't walk back into the relationship thinking, "I finally got them back, so I must never do anything that might make them leave." That recreates the disaster in slow motion. Walk in thinking, "I'm valuable. I voice my needs. I tolerate uncertainty. I can love this person without abandoning myself." Warmth offered freely feels completely different from warmth traded for security. One honest limit remains. None of these steps can force their choice or build a relationship alone, but changing yourself changes the question they're answering. It's no longer only, "Does closeness with this person mean pressure?" It becomes, "Does this relationship now feel different?" You mattered because you gave them something rare, the feeling of being understood, wanted, and safe at once. What buried that value wasn't an absence of love. It was a cycle in which your fear made you pursue, and theirs made them retreat, until neither of you could experience the best of the other. So stop trying to prove your value to them. Start living from it. Let every future message, coffee, and difficult conversation show what your love looks like when you no longer abandon yourself to keep it. You can't choose for them. You change the emotional reality in which they choose. I have been the relationship detective, and thank you for watching. If this helped you see things more clearly, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I wish everyone watching all the best, and I hope to see you again in the next one.